Allianz. Allianz. Supporting all 32 counties through the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lad.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Now, come on,
Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.
Hi folks, how you all doing? 10th May, you're very welcome along to the Irish Examiner Hurling Show in conjunction with Allianz. Great to have them on board. We're no longer the whipping boys of Munster, Mark. Don't answer that, Landers. Just don't answer, right?
Oh,
don't answer.
That was some stat for a fella that got bait by Antrim over the weekend.
Oh, say nothing now. So we talk about it now. We talk about Delighted to be joined by Ballynahinch's finest, All-Ireland winner, All-Star, done it all. Talking to him yesterday evening as well. We're talking every day of the week now. Shane McGrath, how are you?
Well, Dalo, how's things?
Cheers, not so bad,
I said I'd do a job like you. Like I said, I'd beat the queues there. So I know people were taking appointments this morning, but I just said I'd beat the queue and I shaved my own hair about 3 weeks ago. So there you go.
I think it suits you, kid.
Yeah, we'll go the old DIY. I thought I was looking old. The greys were coming in a bit more when it was a bit longer, so I said I'd cut both and just go for it now.
An outfit in Clarecastle said to me there a few years back, when it starts to go, cut it off. He says when it starts to go, like, you know. So I stuck with that there for about the last 2 years.
That could be said for maybe relationships and lots of things in life too, maybe.
Oh yeah. Come here, Murty Browns is reopening. Dirty dig straight away now for me. Get a plug straight away. Is reopening on the 7th of June there, outdoor. So will I book you in, Ballynahinch?
Oh God, book us in. I'll tell you, Dalo, the boys are still talking about it. And any day you get Anthony Daly singing Sleeve Them On or the Galty Mountain Boy is a good, you know it's a sign of a good day.
No. I have video evidence to say I didn't get involved in Sleeve Them On. The Galty Mountain Boy being one of my favourite Rebel songs, I kind of did get involved, I have to say.
You gave it socks that day. I tell you, book us in, and you can book us in for the long weekend too, if you can.
You don't mind if you're outdoor, indoor, whatever.
And anywhere at all, Dalo. Anywhere at all.
That's the stuff. So obviously we have Mark and with TJ as well. TJ was closing a major business deal there this morning, so we're a small bit later recording, but we didn't mind that. Once the deals are done here, lads, that's crucial. TJ, how are things? Did you enjoy the golf yesterday, TJ?
I did. Yeah, I just come back. I had my hair appointment. I'm a little bit different to yourselves for Wednesday morning at 11:30. So I'm probably of the philosophy I prefer to be looking at it, Dalo, than looking for it.
There's going to be no mercy today. I've been feeling there's going to be no mercy today. I need Ken Hogan or someone today to give me a break. Like
Derek McGrath.
Yeah, can you ring Derek there? Ring Ken Hogan. I need someone handier here. These three are going to screw us over. Lads, we're back. It was great to be back. We were waiting, and then maybe it was a bit of an anticlimax. But I thought, I really enjoyed yesterday's game, I have to say, in terms of the open first touch hurling and the scores and the 6 goals and whatever else you have. I wasn't there, obviously I was there Saturday night, but Shane, you were there. You watched the other ones, I presume.
Yeah.
It was good open stuff, wasn't it?
Yeah, like the down in Cork yesterday, it was Dalo, like I suppose. The pitch was unbelievable, but sure, if you want to be unbelievable, there's nothing else going on down there, like, you know. So it wasn't. If pitches aren't looking right yesterday, you seriously have to question your groundsmen or your ground staff. And what in the name of Jesus are you doing for the last 6 months? But no, it was like, you know, I suppose I know you talk about Ozzy a good bit as well, and you know I thought he answered a lot of maybe so-called critics last year, but he really stood up from now yesterday, first game back. He looked like a fella who. He put in a lot of work over the last few months, and he scored 5 points from play. but he was involved in loads of stuff. You probably seen the two sidelines, lads, did you? Like, I mean, it was just, you know, I don't know, it was like Eric Cantona and stuff. Like, it was just magic.
Unbelievable.
Like, across the field, straight into the hand. Even your man Shane McNulty got one. I'd say he didn't know what to do. He was so far up the field, and he got a nosebleed. He didn't know whether to go for a point or not. He stuck it over, but you know, Bennett was brilliant as well, 112. But I suppose the killing thing for Waterford, for me, lads, was the two boys scored 117 between them. Kieran Bennett popped up with 3 points from wing back. They just didn't really get anything from the rest of them, and I think that's what kind of cost them in the end, because, like, I was even looking at it, like, even in the last quarter, you know, the Cork boys scored 3-4, but Waterford scored 1-9, like, you know, so you know, Waterford were always in it. I thought when seeing Shane Kingston coming on, and like Mark, you'd obviously know him fairly well, and you know Kieran as well, but he's in some shape. I think he's actually maybe got stronger and maybe even faster. I know that's maybe ridiculous to say someone in their mid-20s, but he came on yesterday. Collins poked the ball down him straight away. He won it. He went down along the sideline and won it free. But you see that you can see that he was intent of, he was going to cause damage. And for me, he was the difference. Like, he scored the goal. He got a bit of a flake off Caleb Lyons now, right, for the second one. But he caused serious trouble. So Cork boys, they look good, and I tell you, I would be critical of them, Mark, but I tell you, it's the hardest I've seen a Cork team working in a long time, getting stuck in. And Tim O'Mahony, he got fair stuck in there for a lot of the game, and it was great for you to see. I think it's great confidence coming to Thurles next week.
Mark, are you back?
I wouldn't say we're back now, but I suppose we have a little bit of an extra pep in our step. But we've been here before, and I think Dara Fitzgibbon nailed it straight afterwards when he used the word consistency, and that's the word we have been using on the pod all last year. Is the Cork's lack of consistency is what makes them so frustrating from a supporter's point of view or from a pundit's point of view, that you just don't know which Cork team are going to turn up. So there was an awful lot of questions answered yesterday, but it's still very early, Dalo, because one swallow doesn't make a summer. And I suppose, like, Kieran Kingston made big decisions in his second year in charge. And this is something I said to you last year, that I felt he should have made him last year, because he was given a 3-year stint. And I think he was given the opportunity with the likes of, I suppose, Nash and Steve McDonald, Joyce, Aidan Walsh, Conor Lahan. Those lads are no longer involved in the panel this year, and I felt that they possibly could have went last year when he started, because he has a lovely bunch of lads coming through. And the major thing I saw from yesterday's game was that Mark Coleman at 6, Dara Fitzgibbon in the middle of the field, Shane Kingston actually when he came on, I thought possibly it is difficult when you're a dad and your son is on the team, and whether you start them. And I said Kieran's kind of a fella that he mightn't give Shane the hop of the ball in a 50-50, but there's no question about Shane Kingston will be either playing centre forward or maybe in the full forward line come the day of championship, I think, against Limerick. But I think we've new leaders emerging, Anthony, is what I'm really going to say to you. And I would include Patrick Collins in that, even though it was his kind of, I won't say it was his first stop, because he has played a number of league matches in the past with Cork, and Cork have always played well. But Patrick is around the panel for the last 5 or 6 years, and he just needed to get a break. And when Anthony was there, and he was a very good keeper, it was very hard to get a break from the selectors to actually say, we're going to go head-to-head now with Nash and Patrick Collins. I think Collins is a very, very good keeper, and I think the defence play for him. But yesterday, the defence, I thought, as a whole, played better than I've seen in a long, long time. And, you know, I know they conceded a lot of points, but there was no real goal-scoring threat. And the goal came at the last. I was disappointed in one respect that we did concede a goal, but that's no harm as well. But overall, Cork will be thrilled, I think, coming away from yesterday's game. And Ali, the fact that Patrick Horgan probably had 3 goal chances himself yesterday and he didn't convert any of them.
Yeah. He worked very hard, didn't he? Like, Shane alluded to it there. Shane, can I just ask you one thing about on the overall thing? I thought Ozzy was excellent, and it's a great point. He didn't really play as a 14. I know, is there anyone playing as a 14 anymore? But he didn't really take on Cahalane at the edge of the square at any stage, did he?
No, he didn't know, and it's interesting there, I suppose, even if you look at Jack O'Connor's goal, it was Ozzy actually, the ball popped out of his hand twice. It was like he had maybe a bar of soap or something, but it was grease, at that stage, to be fair to him. And even if you look at some of the goalies' puck outs where they hit space, the ball just skidded off the surface and went straight out over the line. But Like he did, I think they kind of gave him a free enough roam and roll there yesterday. I think he could go where he wanted, and I think Bennett finishing up the same. You even see the few scores he got. He was back around his own midfield, maybe back toward his own 65. So as he got a free roam and roll, but he got on to whirl the ball for them. And what I really liked about him was he did the right thing with the ball. In fairness to him, more often than not, the points he got, he was right to take them on. But I mean, he was throwing the ball around. There wasn't too many over the shoulder shots from Ozzy yesterday, and I think that he learned a lot from, especially last year with Liam Cahill and Beavens coming in, about this team ethos, and it's not about the one player. And the Waterford lads are, we've all played against them lads, I suppose, and there used to be an era there where they might shoot from everywhere, and when they were going over, they were brilliant. But I suppose now we're in a game where possession is vital, like, and you don't maybe see any more of these out by the sideline over the shoulder wonder shots, like from Ozzy we used to see. So I thought he was very impressive yesterday. I covered a lot of ground from him. And will they maybe look at him and giving him that free roam and roll again? You wouldn't know, because he can score from distance too. Like we've all seen that. Like.
Yeah, but you mentioned Tim O'Mahony yesterday, Shane, as well. Like on that particular goal that Jack O'Connor got, I thought it was Tim O'Mahony actually dispossessed Ozzy. He gave him a right welt as he was coming over the ball. I think he dropped it, and Tim O'Mahony went back for the second time for the afters.
He did, yeah.
And that was 30 yards from the Cork forward, and it was a feature of yesterday's play that Tim O'Mahony, it reminded me a little bit like Dennis Irwin back in the day, Dalo, when the great Manchester United team was attacking from the back line and creating opportunities and scoring himself. So
Shane,
I saw a lot of...
where was Tim O'Mahony playing?
Yeah, cut that off, TJ. Straight away.
Wing back, TJ, but he is like no more so than Kieran Bennett the other side. Kieran Bennett has number 7 on his back, but the two of them had a license to go forward. And even in the first half there, do you remember, lads? Tim O'Mahony, he had the world space. Now he was literally 40-50 yards on his own underneath the stand. I'm not sure the name of the stand where the media are, but underneath those
South stand.
Liam Cahill. The South Stand, and looking over.
They're waiting for a big sponsor to come in. They're waiting for a big sponsor to come in before they name them.
They're on the way, Dalo. I tell you, Sports Direct must be absolutely thrilled with just the start off.
Oh yeah, you have things happening.
But Tim O'Mahony had to run a party queeve there for that goal chance for Hoggy in the first half, and Cahill went over, called Jack Fagan and said, not to let him go on his own again, because Tim O'Mahony, lads, yourselves. He hurled in the forwards, Mary I. He did a lot of hurling, I'm sure, lads, with Newtown up around full forward there. I seen him one day with half a hamstring getting man of the match nearly. So he's very comfortable up around there as well. But look, I was very impressed with him yesterday. There was a fair bit of biting him now in that kind of 30-second spell too, Mark. He was borderline. He was nearly tick, and he could have gone too far, but worked out fine. And in fairness, another guy I really liked for yesterday for his work rate, because he's a great stick man, is Luke Mead. He worked fair hard, and he got that flick in for Jack O'Connor as well. So, look, maybe we're seeing a new Cork group. Maybe we're saying, look, we got to work hard first, and then, look, there's no question about their ability to use the ball. It's unbelievable that the stick passes. I always say, like, if you have to play Cork in a Fail in the Gale skills competition, Cork can win it every year because they're some of the best sticksmen around.
Yeah, and like Dara Fitzgibbon was on fire in the middle of the field, like, wasn't he? He was just covering every. I mean, himself and Callum Lyons was an awful battle. And if Callum Lyons had got the scores like he got them last year, both in the league and the championship, you'd be maybe talking about him. But poor old Callum misses the goal chance. Well, it's a half chance, but by last year's standards, he'd have nailed it. And then he missed a couple of handy points. And then he gets the red card. Like, it was kind of a nightmare day for him. So, one of those days.
But they were both going forward, Dalo, just from being there yesterday. Callum Lyons was going forward as much as Dara Fitzgibbon, but Dara Fitzgibbon just knew how to play in midfield a bit better than Callum Lyons did yesterday. And like we all know, Dara Fitzgibbon, lads, we played Charleville a couple of years ago in a challenge match with the club. I thought it was madness anyway, because I think they won the All-Ireland intermediate final after them. When Dara Fitzgibbon scored the 9th point off me from midfield, I just had to give him a bit of a flake myself and say, will you leave it after that?
He does box it off very well. Dalo, for me,
yes, TJ.
Before we talk about Cork, right, because it seems to be all Cork this morning, doesn't it? All Cork.
Look at it, it's been a team since about 5 o'clock yesterday evening. TJ,
all Cork.
There's a Corkness back in the country, social media and everything. Sunday sport last night, like.
By next Saturday at about 7 or 8 o'clock, it could be all doom and gloom again, like,
Yeah. Last night, Dalo, there was two programs on last night at 9:30, right? One on RT1 and one on RT2, right? One of them was about hurling, and the other one was called Holy Fuck, right? And as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm concerned, I think hurling is heading this mob that way, right? We had refereeing differently from one day to the next. We had rule changes midweek, the week before the first round of the league, or was it maybe even 24 hours or 48 hours? Mayor Forna is in, Mayor Forna is out. The advantage rule, I don't understand what the theory behind it is. And the last thing for me, the punter sitting at home is, and that's why I asked about Tim O'Mahony, you're making assumptions as to the way teams are playing. We're making assumptions as to where a fella is playing, and we're getting no help from you guys, Dalo, in the media telling us this is the formation, this is the way teams are set up. I don't have a problem with teams taking sharp puck outs. I don't have a problem with the way tactically the way teams set up, but it would be good for the TV stations now, maybe during the water break, to at least show us this is what we're doing. Because it's frustrating from being at home. And that's why Saturday night, Sunday, kind of watching these games without the fans, without the atmosphere, Jesus, I thought it was hard viewing. I know it's the first round of the league. It's not the players' fault. Like this, they're going to improve. And to go to Cork, they're going to improve probably next week and the week after. It does take time to stamp a game plan, like, right, for what they've done in training. I was very impressed. Like, talk about Tim O'Mahony for the first goal, Shane, right? Like, before, that might have been a ball lumped forward. If you go back to Cork last year, they made a hero of Tig de Burke mark in the championship by just hitting ball aimlessly, right? You could clearly see there's something about them, right? Yeah, it comes, as Dalo said this morning, with an exclamation mark about the way they finished. And, you know, one stage Waterford were 11 points down, and then they brought it back to four with four to play. Four to play, which is what you want in a team. And even at that time, right, you were kind of saying, Jesus, if they bring this back to 3, it could get
Limerick. It was 2018 all over again, TJ. And then a long ball dumped down the field by Patrick Collins and broke to Shane Kingston, and he got in for the goal. Cork win.
And my last whinge for the morning, Dalo, is, right, I think, you see Pogba yesterday making a penalty, make a manufacturer penalty again for United, right, that they get soft ones, right? I think we're heading into a period of manufactured freeze, Shane, right? Over the weekend, there was a huge amount of players who just go to tackle a fella with maybe your hand in, and I know this comes back to coaching, with a hand in over the opposition hand, right? When you have the ball, you wrap the hand, and they're getting the free every single time. So it was a little bit frustrating to watch, Mark, wasn't it?
I brought that up with Fergal Horgan the last time we were on. The forwards are throwing the hand in all the time. And his response was, Jesus, you think that we're around long enough, we know exactly when frees are frees and they're not frees. And I would agree with you. There was a good few manufactured frees yesterday, particularly in the Cork game, I would have to say. Now, I suppose if you're getting them, you don't mind. But I thought, you know, some of the refereeing decisions leave a lot to be desired. But I suppose the big one over the weekend, TJ, is going to be the advantage rule. I mean, that was working perfectly up to yesterday, that when a player breaks a tackle who has been fouled, and we are allowing the play to develop, the rules committee have now made a decision to say that the advantage is the free, which is not what an advantage rule is at all. Like, but what's more disappointing is that the referees weren't even consulted about it, and I don't think that the likes of Dickie Murphy or Willie Barrett are actually on that committee. No, it was actually brought.
This was brought into Congress.
So it's in for the year, regardless of how much people give out about it. Basically.
I know.
I think but Shane, we're trying to suss that all morning.
But I think, Shane, that can be reversed, because Anthony Nash. Remember when Anthony Nash was taking the freeze a couple of years back? That was changed midstream, and I think it was changed because of health. It was changed midstream. Yeah, remember he used to pick the ball in the 21 and he hit it from the 13. Midstream in the championship, it was brought out.
I think the health and safety side of this is to stop people having heart attacks at home or stop breaking televisions and stuff for what's going on. Because, I think actually personally, the Limerick boys lost out the most with this so-called advantage rule at the weekend, TJ, when Conor Boylan put the ball over the bar and they were eating his breathing.
Yeah, I think I know. I think it was in the first half. But Shane, do you think that we're heading towards a period of, let's say, maybe take a 5-year period of less contact, or heading for non-contact, and then maybe nearly taking an NFL view of where there's two sides to the game now, complete offense and complete defense? Are we heading that way?
Yeah, I think one of the hardest places to play in the field now is probably the half-forward line. because the way most teams are playing, it's just crazy down there in the middle third as you call it. And if you're a wing back, if you're a Dermot Burns, you're happy enough maybe for your guy to go into that, because a Tom Morrissey or a Garrod Hegarty or someone like that is going to do a job there for you in the middle, and that allows you to sit back and then allows you to get a better quality ball in. But you're talking about non-contact, TJ. I think personally now, lads, I don't know how you feel now. You were probably 3 stronger hurlers than I was. I was more of a kind of a get the ball, move the ball kind of fella. I didn't really like the contact, but I was shuddering there on the couch watching some of the hits going in there Saturday evening. I was happy enough now eating the old omelette and chips, but I was watching like Kyle Hayes. If he ran into these guys, there was actually a spell there in the Tipp Limerick match. I know we talk about Tipp Limerick, but Jason Ford hit Kyle Hayes' shoulder and knocked him over. I'd say Kyle Hayes hasn't been knocked since he was 4 or 5 years of age, I'd say. But I think personally, to talk about the non-contact thing, I don't think the county hurlers have ever been as strong. And I'm talking about forking bales of silage into cattle strong. I'm talking about benching 120, 130 kg strong. And I kind of worry for lads like that. They're doing so much in the gym now, lads, to get right to play hurling. Are we missing out on the Jerry O'Connors of this world who aren't going to do that? Or are we missing out on lads, more skillful lads, because of it? And I worry also, boys, that what are they going to be like when they're 45 or 50, or that with all they're doing? I don't know, lads. I just think we're getting, from a hurling point of view, are we going more with how strong you are, and then you can become a hurler, or could we go back to you're a hurler and we'll make you strong now to make you better? I'd love to know what you think.
Two quick ones there, Shane, on that. It's Seven Henry, you're standing there on the side. I know Henry's still fair shape. I would say Henry's body shape hasn't changed too much since he was playing. And we're standing there, and Limerick are warming up behind us, and I have a better view of him. He's complete back to him. I'm kind of side on. And I know Garrod Hegarty is only about 8 foot behind him, and we're on an ad break. And I just go, "Hi, we ever as strong as that?" And he looks behind. Jesus, he's just the sheer power of the man, and a few more like that. Just being down there on the sideline, I suppose you just have a prime view of really how absolute mountains, a lot of them, and even some of the Tipp lads now, they wouldn't have as pronounced big lads. Galway do, I would say. Galway have those 3 or 4 as well that really stand out at you. But lads, I got a good few texts of fellas, who knew I was on the TV or whatever, on my way home, at home Saturday night, and knew I was going up doing the radio as well yesterday. And I knew we'd be talking this morning, obviously. And one of my good friends kind of just said to me, "Is this game gone forever, Dalo, to the chessboard?" And that was after Limerick Tipp, right? And then I texted him back last night, "Well, was there any chessboard involved in Cork?" And he said, "Sure, it's like 2 different sports," he says to me. "But what will happen when Cork meet Limerick or Tipp meet Waterford?" Which is, I thought Tipp changed their tactics a fair bit Saturday, Shane, in terms of, and I agree with you, TJ, with the league coverage. It is difficult because obviously it was Air Sports, viewing that RT get. And I'll be conscious of that now. I'm doing co-commentary Saturday night and I'll try and let you know who's where, TJ, on the teams. But it was that. It was as you mentioned to me, 2 different sports, or Dalo, he said.
Touch about Classico about Saturday night coming, Dalo, isn't there?
There is, and I tell you, there's a couple of more as well. Galway and Limerick, touch of the clash of the
Clare and Wexford.
Clare and Wexford,
that's going to be better altogether.
Is that one going to be on television?
Dalo's on it, sir.
I'm co-commentator. I think it's Jay Goda.
We want you with a private camera. We want you with a private camera and the 2 managers now, Dalo, as well, all right?
I'm only hoping they let me in, Mark. That's the big question.
And Dalo, we want you with a mic beside the fellow up in the stand that you're going to put in to upset poor old Davy.
This is a home game for Clare, Mark. I'm doing co-commentary for RTE. That's not that.
We need a mic in the stand now as well.
It's turned into. But come here, go back to what I was saying. We look forward to the games the weekend.
Yeah, Dalo, you're right.
We're 2 different sports, TJ. See, TJ, you text. No, you text. Well, this is what it's going to be like. I'm going playing golf on Saturday night.
I was frustrated with not being able to understand the game fully, but to be fair to the opposing managers, right? Let's say Galway are different because they're a big physical team, but Cork play Limerick, right? Are you going to get Patrick Collins to puck ball down on top of Kyle Hayes, Declan Hannon, and Dermot Burns? The answer to that is no. Not a hope. No. So that's why it has to turn into a game of chess. And are we heading for a period of where we're probably going to look at 70-80% of puck outs now all going short. Look at even the last ball the Tipp hit in the game, right? Where they just had no choice but to lump it forward. And the three boys in the Limerick full back line, the three of them held their ground. So that's why I'm saying to you about it now comes into what the boys were talking about last night about this short, safe transfer of the ball, where when you have it, you don't give it away. And then when they have it, you get your setup as to how best we can get this ball back off them. But to talk about Tipp, Dalo, I did think that Sheedy and Tommy Dunn and boys will be happy going home with the formula. There might be pieces of the performance that they weren't overly excited about, maybe scoring from play, etc. But I think the closing of the space to the diagonal ball. Last year in the championship, Shane, I think they got hung up. They sent Alan Flynn, man marking Keane Lynch. That kind of threw him before the game where he was moved into centre forward. I think they got pulled and dragged a lot of place. I think they dealt with that much better on Saturday night. I do know now you're going to be dealing with different personnel, and when Keane and definitely Peter Casey came on, it made a big difference. But I think formula-wise, I do think the Tipp boys will be happy.
But I know what it would be today. And even look, I was glancing down the line as that last ball. Who hit it? He came on as a sub, Shane, red helmet. Sorry.
Oh, Dylan Cork.
Dylan Cork. And like he lifted his head and looked, and there was nobody. And he just baited cross field, and the 3 minutes was up anyway. But I gave a little glance down the line, and I was watching the clock as well. And like the final whistle went, and Liam did give a little clenched fist. And like it was a game I felt they should have won. But it was so important not to lose, like, and you made that point. Yeah. I think that's right. But as a spectacle, Mark, I didn't really enjoy it, and I was there now, which is a whole pile. Privilege to be there, and
that's because I said it was an awful lot of lack of scoring. Anthony, like 20 points each when you had 5-22 and 1-27 in Party Cleave 24 hours.
One half chance of a goal, Mark.
Yeah. No, it was very disappointing from that perspective. But it was a physical game. There was a lot of frees in it. And I think Colm Lyons reffed the game to the letter of the law, because that's the pressure the referees are under right now, that they have to ref to the rules of the game. And I think that frustration was coming out. And John Kiley made a comment about it after the game as well. But like, I actually think Liam, I know he might have a clenched fist, but I thought with 15 minutes to go Tip of the game in the bag, they were 5 points up and they were hurling fierce well. I think in a low-scoring game, I think they should be disappointed with not coming away with the result on
I know, but I say it was just that it seemed as if Limerick were going to snatch it, and he come away with nothing.
That would have been the worst thing of all, because that would have been a collapse then. That'll tell you the pressure that Sheedy was under, that he actually was hoping for the final whistle. But if you were looking at the clock with 15 minutes to go, which I was on the television saying, this is a great result for Tipperary, even though Limerick didn't start with, they started with 9 of their first 15 from the All-Ireland final, and the likes of Keane Lynch and Hegarty are massive contributors to that team. But I think Tip will be slightly disappointed.
Crucial moment, lads, and you look at little moments, and you can't pick one moment because maybe a goal chance or something like if Hoggy had scored the goal, maybe that Billy Nolan made a great save from, Cork might have won that match a good bit easier, and we wouldn't be questioning the lulls or whatever. But for Tip, for me, they got a free, Shane. Good bit back now, and Jason Ford ran to take it, and I don't know whether Ronan Mara overruled Jason, but Ford, the radar was on fire, wasn't it? Every angle, sideline. There was a lot of exhibitions of free taking into again. Oh my God, he was on. And I remember saying it to Joanne and Henry, the three was there together. Jesus, let it 40 guy. To put him 5 ahead, and for me, that's crucial. Limerick nearly went down immediately and got it back to 3. So I think that was a moment in it anyway. But I just think, somewhere in between, someone could come up with a formula, lads, where you could engage Limerick in the middle ground, right? That's what's not easy to do now, and we will say that probably Galway are the best equipped to do that, right? Engage them in the middle ground, and yes, try and pull them either side, because I just don't think with Limerick at full strength, that kind of a Tip approach where they did play very deep. God, I only imagine, lads, if it was the poor old Dublin hurlers and I had them and I played like that, I'd be vilified on a show like this morning. So they're destroying hurling, there's no one up in the full forward line, but that was the reality, and I don't blame Liam Sheedy, because it was about having a look at what could beat the best team in the country.
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing, Dalo. And Mark, I suppose when you're 5 points up against anyone, you're going to want to win a game, you know, coming into the final quarter and everything. But with this current Limerick group, like, okay, as you know well, TJ, you know well, like, they haven't been beaten like since August 2019, right? They're a serious team, and I think they've had our number. When I say our, I'm talking about Tipp, they've had our number the last good while. I mean, last 7 times they've played, like, we've only bet them once. The draw the other night, Limerick have won the other 5, and we're talking about comprehensively winning now as well. Like, give us some trimming in the Munster final there in inside the Gaelic grounds in 2019. Do you know what I mean? And give us a nice trimming out down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh last year. Like, the only time we bet them has been in a league semi-final a couple of years ago, went to extra time. It was 2-31 to 1-31 or something inside in Simple Stadium there under lights one night. So while I understand what you're saying, Mark, I say, you know, 5 points up, you want to win it. I do honestly feel, as a group, if they'd lost the match, it would have been a killer this week, going back doing recovery there, whatever they were doing yesterday, or going again train tomorrow. But not losing the match to Limerick, I think, will give the group big confidence going into the weekend, like, you know.
But Shane, I think over the last 3 years, just as you said there about Tipp, right? I think, like, and we're talking about serious students of the game now, in Liam, Tommy Dunn, Dara, Eamon O'Shea, right? I think they've tried a number of different things from what I've seen. When I went to Thurles last year early, I saw, like, Cian Lynch was man marked by Alan Flynn, which then went on to the championship, right? They left somebody at home to kind of mind the square. They didn't try to man mark, let's say, Gerald Hegarty and Tom Morrissey, and pushed up and leave one guy at home. That didn't work, right? They didn't try it in the championship, where basically they kind of left a wing back at home. But I thought the big positive for me coming out is, I think, formula-wise, I think that they will have felt that this did work. Yeah, they have tweaks to do, but they completely gave up the full forward line to pull them back to be effectively a half forward line. And then everyone went filtered back to field, allowing them to completely kill all spaces. So they did 6 spaces at the back line for Tipp filled at all times. Do you know those diagonal balls they're good at? Yeah, they got 1 or 2 away, but overall, like, Limerick scoring whatever 20 points, that's kind of maybe would be considered low for them, right? So I think
2/3 of the normal.
Yeah, 2/3 of the normal. I think formula-wise, Shane, I think that would be the most pleasing piece for Tipp. They can fix the personnel afterwards, and let's fix the scoring and all that, right? And as Dalo said, maybe the goal chances might come with maybe different players or whatever. But it is a tricky one. Like, and that's back to Dalo's initial question here about the chess. I do think we're in for periods of chess.
I think you two of the, like, is it the Queen's Gambit is on Netflix? Is that the one about chess, lads? I'm sure you all watch. I think you two of the Queen Gambits there in the form of Paul Kinnork has been one. Beavens is another. You know, you've Eamon O'Shea with Paul. You've lads there that know this game, the modern game that we're talking about. You know, about how to put lads in certain places, how to make space, how to create space. You know, as I said to you about, even it was fascinating to watch the Cork and Waterford puck-outs yesterday. A few of them. Everybody gets sucked to one side of the field, and the ball is hit into space. Came off maybe once or twice, but you're talking about a game of chess. There it is, like in real life. You know, everybody came to one side. You know, what I think teams will start copping onto then as the year goes on, and your main guys on the field is the really smart hurlers won't go with the lad, and they'll just probably stay and mark the space, lads. And they'll know that something is coming in there, like, eventually, you know. So that's going to happen.
But Shane, for me, like, you were there, you could see it, and I like being at a game to be able to see that as well. I think for the viewer at home and for a lot of the hurling supporters now, I think that needs to be kind of explained to people, right? So during that water break for that 2 or 3 minutes, instead of, I don't know, like on one of the cameras, we were looking at some fella's boots there. I think he was holding the camera, right? Is like, could you not just show us? This is the setup. This is the way Tipper set up. This is the way Limerick.
I'm on the radio.
Okay. this is the way.
I've no control over what's been paid for the camera work either. Like, you know,
I'm just saying.
In other words, you're looking for a kind of a 4-4-2-1, like, or 4-4-3-2-1 or something like that.
Well, I
couldn't explain the Tips system too handy now. I tell you the truth now.
But it's very easy. But like, in other words, the full forward line playing in the 45-yard line, and the other 12 players were back to field.
Well, the two midfielders, really. The two midfielders, who I thought Alan Flynn had a great game now. Yeah, and if Michael Green had scored the chances he got, you would say they would have won midfield hands down. Seldom you saw Willem O'Donoghue who was quite like. They really did. I thought Tipp shaded midfield by a nice bit.
They squeezed him, but like...
Yeah. But they dropped back, though. They made a 5 nearly. And Shamie Kennedy was nearly a 4 with Shamie Kennedy sitting behind the 4. So he didn't really attempt to go out and signs on. David Reedy hit a bit of ball. And at times you'd say it wasn't working because Flanagan maybe was getting the run on Brian McGrath early. Now, it's tough ask on Brian McGrath. I wasn't named at 5. Now, for all I know, Shane, he could have known all the week that he was 3. But I was looking forward to seeing Brian McGrath in the half-hour. And in fairness to Brian McGrath, as all the McGraths would do, he grew into the match. He actually finished strong, you know. But Shemmy Flanagan is really kicking on, I'd say, TJ.
Can you imagine Flanagan and Gillan there, lads? You know, we're talking about, and I know it's early days. Like, for me, it's like looking at the mock leaving cert results, right? And if I went by my mock leaving cert results, I probably have enough to do fish farming or basket weaving. I wouldn't be going anywhere near the teaching, I tell you that. Like, so you'd such monsters of men either side not there. But like, I agree with Dalo, and I'm sure you agree, TJ. I think Jamie Flanagan has now become from, oh God, I hope I get on, to this guy has to be on. And I think he's exceptional. I think him and Gillan up there as a 2, and maybe Peter Casey or someone out the field, and you hit the space in front of them. Geez, they'll be hard marked, TJ, like on here.
But Shane, my point is, I don't think that space was there in front of him in the second half, right? I think the Tipp effectively shut it down. Now, the consequence for Tipp was they didn't get any score from play. They had to rely on the freeze. So if you look at Jamie Flanagan, where he got his 4th point, he got it from exactly in the middle of the field. And Dalo, when Peter Casey came on, it was like as if, I don't know what position he came on in, right? Or if there was positions at that stage, right? But it was like as if Kinnerk told him, you have to stay in the middle of the field because that's where we'll work the transfer to. Like, I think if Peter Casey went in corner forward, I don't think he would have got the scores. So that was probably the, I suppose, the reaction from someone like a Kinnerk. I think the Tipp closed that space exceptionally well. I know Shamie got 1 or 2 early doors out in the left-hand side, but after that, that space was killed.
So do you think, TJ, would you mind me asking, do you think now teams to try and beat Limerick, right? This is what I'm looking at now, are going to be happy enough maybe not to score a goal, hope they kind of hit the 22 point mark and just try and nullify Limerick with loads of guys back? Like, is it going to become football? Like, what do you think?
I think so. I just what you said there about Jamie Flanagan and Aaron Gillan in the full forward line, right? I don't think that any team, like if you were over a team going out to play Limerick, any other teams, I would say one prerequisite is anyway, we cannot leave a lot of space in front of these 2 boys, right? Because they will work the ball to the middle of the field and they will ping it in at the angle, and they're like I don't know if you ever played cornerback, Shane. I'd say you might have been handy there. You're pacey and stuff, right? But in a one-on-one situation with an angle ball coming to one of these guys, effectively, no matter how good as a cornerback you are, you have little or no chance. So I do see that. Now, we did see a tweak last year, Dalo, that me and you probably were slow to kind of come to terms with, was Kyle Hayes going back to wing back, because usually we were used to Burns never Stern from 5, Declan Hannon sitting at 6, and Dan Morrissey sitting at 7, and literally those Limerick backs never crossed the halfway line. But
I'd say you'll see him back up there, TJ, up in the forwards again. I thought Richie English was very good. Very good. Yeah,
started
back in, no bother. Dan Morrissey has to go somewhere.
Yeah, it changed then that Kyle Hayes was bombing on, right? So you could see another change again. And the change I thought I saw was Peter Casey come on more or less in the middle of the field. We needed Keane's influence, even though he was on for a short time. He still had plenty possession. He still had plenty possessions, and he does kind of make that team tick.
He just takes mind in TJ, doesn't he? Like, he has that presence on the field.
He didn't even have that many possessions, TJ, but the ones he got on, you could nearly tell, and there was only the mentors and the officials.
They were effective.
Go on, Keane. You could hear and he had a huge part in that brilliant Flanagan score from way out. Like, they both that beautifully, 4 or 5 passes. Well, I suppose, look, you have to talk about the officiating over the weekend, I suppose. Then John Kiley, I suppose, he gave the RTE interview and he didn't say too much about it, which is fine. And I suppose you're more relaxed maybe doing the interview with the reporters. I think we have a bit of that there. This is just, I suppose, him talking to the media scrum rather than one-to-one with RTE. So just we might have that clip of that there.
John, was the application of the newer banter rules frustrating today? Because it seemed to be a lot more freeze than usual. It's obviously going to be far behind its goal.
Did you do a count on the freeze, John?
No, but it didn't look good really.
It was 21 to 10. So you know who had the most of it. But That goes without saying. So, yeah, listen, there was a good lot of stoppages. Yeah, there was a lot of stoppages in that regard. But listen, maybe on the other hand, the referees haven't exactly had a chance to referee any games for the last 6 or 7 months either. So I don't know when Cullum last refereed a game. So they've got to get a chance as well over the next couple of weeks to get some game time in and get their decision making up to scratch as well. So they're in the same boat as ourselves. We're all trying to improve what we're doing out there, and there's a little bit of getting used to the rule tweaks there, that advantage rule in particular. There's a bit of getting used to that now. That was a big change today, I thought. Yeah.
Okay, so that's obviously your own John Fogarty asking him the question about the free count 21-10. There was a few, I'd say, when you look back at your phone again afterwards, was 1 or 2 questions, and of course then Joanne asked me the question, were referees clamping, or was there some effort by somebody to clamp down on Limerick style? So I said I'd be very disappointed if I thought there was, unless we all knew about it and it was pointed out what was a free and what wasn't a free. So if there was something wrong with Limerick style last year. So I think John maybe alluded to that a small bit there as well. Did he mark like 21-10 and got to 21, got to 10?
Yeah. Well, Brian Gavin said in the exam today it was 21-13, so it's somewhere in around that Dalo anyway. And as was John alluded to, that maybe that they conceded more frees over the course of the game, and I suppose Jason Font hit 12 or 13 points on frees yesterday, which is an awful lot when you think of 19 or 20 points in total. I thought Cullum Lyons, to be fair to him, ref the game the way the rules of the association have allowed him to, and we do know that Limerick are probably the most physical team out there at the moment. They're certainly not a dirty team. They're a good, hard, physical team, and I don't see any problem with their tackling and stuff like that. I think it's more the advantage rule yesterday seemed to come against Limerick. I would suggest yesterday, and I think that the lads in the Sunday game made a point last night that this actually could cause you more trouble down the road, because it may be more advantage to foul a fella than actually let him go out with the ball. And particularly, I think that means defenders coming out with the ball. Like, are you better off to foul a fella back in the 21 or the 40? Absolutely, because the free taker won't probably score from maybe the opposing 45-metre line. So it is more advantageous, I think, to foul a fella and bring him down and give the yellow card, because Struggle confirmed for us the last that a cynical foul outside the 21 in the D is only a yellow card. It's not time in the sin bin. So I think that is a major issue for the GAA, and the disappointing thing is that they sprung it on the referees, even though it made it come in Congress, Anthony. The referees, I think, were only made aware of it in the last fortnight. So, and that is the biggest talking point after the weekend. And you'd have to say, just before I go away, is it the sin bin scenario actually probably worked to a fair extent over the weekend, the cynical fouling, that there wasn't a whole pile of it over the weekend?
No, and we'll talk about the sin bin one. I think we have to give it a good spin. But TJ, are they clamping down on you? Like, I felt a bit like this, and a lot of Clare people, well, I didn't know, but a lot of the old Clare supporters felt around 98 that there was a general feeling that, all right, you came in there and you won 2, but the Empire is saying that's enough for you now. Tip away back there to your traditional music with us. It'll be the Periwinkles and Kilkee for you, TJ.
It's certainly starting to feel that way, Dalo. Getting rid of Paul Kinnerk after sideline, allowing opposition bring on 7 subs, getting rid of the advantage rule. It's certainly beginning to look that way, all right, from where we are. I thought the advantage rule was brought in a couple of years ago, Dalo, to have kind of a bit more flow and less freeze in the game, right? And it would be a better spectacle. So I don't understand why that change was made and why we need that. I don't think we need to hear the referee's whistle. I think my point to Fergal Horgan the last day was that if you had a Mayor Forna there, that you'd be reminding him of that count. Do you know what I'm saying? Do you know what I mean? Cullum, do you know what I mean? They have 10 more frees. Are we that dirty? I think if you were reminding him in his ear during the game, I think you can have a little bit of influence on him. But look, I don't have any 1 or 2 particular incidents in the game that I thought were harsh or this and the other. I just think the game is gone. Like, we've under 15 training in the field tonight, right? And at the end of it, we'll play like probably a 10v10 or 11v11, right? and I'll probably have 3 or 4 young fellas giving out to me at the end of training saying that they should have had a free, or I gave a free, there was no free. So the game has gone very, very, very difficult to referee. And what we're looking at and looking for in the middle third there, right, is tricky. And I'm going back to the question of where we're headed, Dalo. Are we headed down a road of where we want just teams to have the ball, and then you try and get the ball back off them, and then you keep it, and I don't know. I'm just a little bit unclear.
Well, look, the sin bin thing, right? I don't know how much you saw now, Shane, because you were on duty yesterday. Like, the lad Clare some leash got the sin bin against Wexford, and it was probably Rory O'Connor coming.
It was.
Like Rory O'Connor, and he did rugby tackling as such, and now Lee Chin's penalty is poorly hit, and it's saved by Roland, and before we know it, Clare is back on, I suppose. But the match, I suppose, was always going one way. But so it's not magnified really. But overall, I suppose there wasn't too much of that. I'd say the big one, the boys showed it last night, and I had a clip of it there. I showed it to Aaron Shanahan's one, was a stone wall above in Belfast. And Brian Lohan's probably getting loads of jib today everywhere he looks, and would probably have swung the match at that stage. A penalty, Kelly sticks it, and Antrim are down to 14 for 10 minutes. So it's fine lines. Now you can't. I'm no excuses, McLeod. I'm not going there at all. We'll talk about the Clare Antrim match in a minute. I'm not going there at all. That's not an excuse, but just have to get the consistency right on that. But that wasn't the big issue. The bloody advantage is if this is going to continue, and finishing up the Sunday game last night at Sunday Sport, John Canto told us that it can't be changed. It was in Congress. It has to be changed, lads. Or otherwise the referees just have to ignore it themselves. Look, you're dead right. This is what was said, that it suits you to foul. Kyle Hayes coming out with the ball, Dermot Burns, Barry Nash the other wing. They're bursting forward, break the tackle, drag back. Sure, lads, there was an incident in the Dublin game as well. And it was shown up last night about Conor Boylan's one. But Danny Sutcliffe caught a puck out, broke the tackle, got dragged back, broke the tackle as he would, big strong fella, over the bar off his left. If you imagine if Parnell Park was full and he all played there, how intimidating it can be. And they had lifted the roof against Kilkenny at home. And just as he was hitting it, sailed over there and then brought back the free, and Donald Burke failed to rise it. No score out of it. And I think the score at the time was 14-12 to Kilkenny. You know what I mean? How much of an influence is that one? We got a bit touch of everything with the Kilkenny Dublin game on the rules, because Paddy Smith was one of the guys that was highlighted for the tackle on Shane Kingston, and then Mossy Keoghan gets inside him. Now James Madden was probably the wrong side of his man. Poor old Paddy just happened to be there. But Paddy, probably last year, no problem taking down Kingston, but he didn't really. I'd say Paddy went through his head in a microsecond, Mark. He probably said, exactly. Them refs are looking at my clip all week. They're saying, this is sin bin territory. And he didn't tackle him in a goal. And it was actually the goal that won the game, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, and that is, and to be fair, that is the reason why the sin bin stroke cynical play inside the 21 in the D has come in, to give the advantage to the forward who's in a goal scoring position. And I do welcome that rule, I must say. But again, it is around the confusion of the advantage rule, Anthony, that the biggest talking points of this weekend is. And I think we will see less of the sin bin until possibly maybe with 3 or 4 minutes to go in a game, when a team are maybe 4 points up and a fella will say, you know what, there's only 3 minutes left on the clock, 10 minutes in the bin, I'm only going to be in there for 3 minutes. I think a fella will take one for the team, but he certainly won't take one for the team in the first half or maybe the first quarter of the second half. I think that is definitely working, Anthony. But I'm coming back to you on the advantage rule, and it's in Congress and it can be changed. Go back to the Anthony Nash rule a number of years back, whereby the GA changed the penalty situation of the 21-yard free midstream in the season. I don't know 100% was it for health and safety reasons, but it was changed mid-season that a penalty or a 21-yard free could not be struck from inside the 21. And that happened mid-season, and that's why the ball has come out to maybe 2 meters from outside the 21, that the ball has to be struck before the 20. That did change mid-season. So, look, it's only the first round of the league, and maybe things will be a bit clearer next weekend. But for all of us that are talking here now, it certainly isn't a good thing for referees or for teams or for spectators.
And Mark,
will we ever forget, TJ, before you go on, will we ever forget, 13 Clare lads with goalies, hurleys inside the goal. And
Yeah,
will we ever forget Saki O'Keefe running out to meet it? Do you remember that? The one he threw up and Saki came out of the goal. Well, remember the mark on his leg after the ball? Jesus. There was fellas some other sports saying, you're nuts. Do you know, like, I think they had to change. But Jesus, lads, this will be health and safety as well, TJ, if they don't change.
It will. And that's my. I keep coming back to where we headed. My belief here is I don't think the referees wanted this change. Like, I thought there was, like, they were trying to let the game go. And in fairness, in most games, when the game is going well, the referee tries to let it flow. I don't believe the players want this. So why?
I think, to be fair to Sean Clear yesterday...
Don't told us lads last night, sir. It was football lads giving us rules.
To be fair to Sean Clear yesterday, like, for one of Alan Connolly's goals,
yes,
like, the time lines hit him, he did give the advantage. And I think everyone was there was saying, fair play, Sean. So, like, as you said, Dalo, and you've all said, lads, in fairness, I wonder if the referees got together. You know, it's always maybe kind of on the players and stuff for all this. I wonder if the referees got together and they went to Willie Barrett being their spokesperson, or whoever is their spokesperson, Mark, I'm not sure, but and said,
well,
look, it's the referees at the end of the day, it's the referees are getting all the stick. And to be fair to them, as you said, lads, they probably didn't want this changed. But
yeah, they're not,
I wonder if they got together, like,
they're not really getting it this weekend, aren't they? We're all kind of saying,
yeah, but I mean, there's going to come a big game later in the year, and we will be talking about the refs. I wonder if they got together and said, look, we don't want this. And no more so, Mark, than you said about the Anthony Nash thing, I wonder would they say, look, it doesn't seem to be to the benefit of the game or the benefit of the players or the referees. Maybe we need to have a look at it.
So there's a couple of things I would say, Shane. We had Fergal Horgan on here 2 weeks ago, and he was brilliant. And a referee did contact me. A referee contacted me straight after. He said, Mark, I'm telling you now, the sin bin is not going to be an issue whatsoever for the referees. The biggest issue coming down is the advantage rule has been changed and nobody is aware of it. So that was the first thing. And I asked him, were the referees consulted about the decision? And he said, no, they weren't. And I also asked them last night, do you know, was Dickie Murphy or Willie Barrett, because they're the kind of the spokesman for the referees as far as I'm aware, were they involved in the decision? He said, I can't confirm or deny that. But they're the type, like, definitely Dickie Murphy and Willie Barrett need an open line of communication from their own referees straight up along the line to Croke Park. That if there are changes to the rules, that needs to go through. And I mean, the fellas on the ground, to me, are possibly the best fellas to be asked about that. And if the referees didn't have any hand act or part to play in it, their hands are tied, lads. They're following the rules of the association. I don't blame any of the referees. They have got to do their job and will be given out to them then if they didn't do their job properly. So, but
would you ever have a referee strike, lads, I wonder? You know?
Landers is the man to contact and everyone to organise it.
He knows all about strikes. He's the man.
You're not so far away from one of mine. You're not so far away from one of them, I'd say, yourselves now.
Yeah, we'll come to that in a second. Dalo, remind me, why did they make this change? Why did they reverse it?
I don't know.
What's the theory behind it?
TJ, I'll tell you one thing now. There's two men being mentioned there now, and I know they're not being mentioned in any way in the blame. It was Willie Barrett and Dickie Murphy. Well, I played under the two of them for long enough to know they had no problem with a bit of advantage rule behind them or in front of them. They were fair enough guys to deal with. Do you know what I mean? Then, if you were acting the bollocks, you got it off the two of them. But if you were, fella was acting the bollocks and you reacted to that, the two boys were nearly saying, fair enough. Do you know? Yeah. No, they ref the match. Yeah. But there was a sense of fairness from them, I always thought. I just don't think it's coming from them at all. Like, I think Don Logue might have touched on something last night, mentioning football rules and how many times have football rules been changed, lads? Advance, mark, this, mark. It's worse than rugby now at this stage.
Is it broken, Dalo?
Pause, heave. What's that one in rugby, TJ? Pause.
Engage.
Touch.
Engage.
Touch. Pause. But is that gone now again?
Yeah, it's gone. Is it broken?
See. No, I don't think it is. No. Look, lads, we just need to go back to basics here.
Yeah.
Fitzy gave a brilliant interview. Shane, myself and yourself were listening to it. Davy Fitz, he's holding a minute there. He said, we're getting up around the high 30s on frees and games. This sport is ruined, he said. No, he said, no, I'm all for cynical stuff. We saw it last year, he said. I'm trying now to think of the interview. I'm not trying to make up stuff. He said, we all saw the cynical stuff last year. We all feel that has to be cut out as best possible. we all know there'll be mistakes, the same as we make them on the line, the players make them from the refs. We accept that. But he said, don't ruin hurling. Shane, am I right? Was that genuinely said?
I did, he did. And look, and he's a passionate man, Dalo. I've seen him in action at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning trying to run around Crackle Woods. He's a passionate man, like, you know. He was dead right. Yeah, he was. I don't know how he ended up in Crackle Woods after the night.
Fittest families.
The fittest families wouldn't get a look into what he was saying.
I know. But he was, like, he just said, don't ruin the game.
No, he was dead
Why
right.
Why would they ruin the game? You know,
I was of the opinion, Dale, that the game of hurling was in a very, very good place there. I said up to recently, I thought it was some fantastic games of hurling, like Galway Clare semi-finals, Limerick Cork semi-finals, and we're just bringing in changes here. Like, and it just kind of reminds me about Irish fellas. You know, there's kind of an old saying about if they can't drink it, eat it, or ride it, they'll definitely break it. And I think we've broken it.
Bleep! Lads. But look, hopefully, I think it has been maybe part of the media. No, like, I'm not journalists or anything, but we have to keep banging on about this, lads, because this has to be changed. But the sin bin thing, it's there for a year. We knew it was there for the year. Let's roll with it and see. Do you know, if it works and we've more goal scoring chances and things like that. But this advantage thing, like, look, give back the power to the ref to say,
absolutely.
If there's the advantage to the team, they're fouled, play on. And if they don't get the advantage, go back.
Hopefully the refs will come together, lads, and hopefully the refs will say, look, we didn't want it, the players clearly don't want it, and the hurling people, they don't want it either. And I think they should go as the people who are in charge of this to whoever needs to be approached to Croke Park and say, we need to change this. You changed it before. I think this needs to be changed. And look, at least, thank God, we have these few matches to try and sort it out. Imagine if we didn't have these matches and we went straight into championship. Jeez, lads, they'd be war if someone got knocked out over one of these.
And there's different games too, Dalo. Like you have a really, really open game, as Shane said, like Cork and Waterford, which is end to end with loads of space. And then you have a game like Limerick and Tipp. There's different. It's nearly down to the referees' just intuition on the day as to how a game is going and how a game is flowing. So there has to be. Like if you have the power in the middle of the field to referee the game, why not just leave it with him rather than nearly forcing his hand to a degree?
Yeah, and we constantly the last couple of years on this pod we've always said about the refs working more with their linesmen and working more as a team and giving the linesmen more power to help the refs, and that's what we wanted and encouraged. And look, if people give out about us giving out about refs too, I know they do on the show, but we're with the refs on this one. We want them to be, you know. So look at, like 1A is fascinating. You have to feel sorry for Westmeath, I suppose. Someone said to me that, you know, going forward, looking at the Joe McDonough, Westmeath might be in the strongest position because the great games they'll have in 1A, like, it doesn't look like that's going to be the case. And fairness to Shane O'Brien, like, he has to try and rally them now and say, lads, we've 4 more games to get through. We have to get through them positively. But it's tougher for them, isn't it? It doesn't look any easier now facing down to Waterford, who shipped 522 and have to face them, you know, down in Waterford.
Yeah, and like you have Waterford, Cork, you have Tipp and Clare and Galway. Like, I mean, it's a fierce, hard.
No, Clare on the other side.
Cork, Galway,
Tipp, Waterford, Tipp, Tipp, Limerick, Cork, Waterford, they have to play. Like, Jesus, that's just it's tough going.
Yeah.
Like.
They're desperate, and like, I suppose they played in patches yesterday, Anthony, but Galway looked really, really good. Like, they're probably physically the most equipped team in the country at the moment to take on Limerick. And they have scorers. They can score from all their forwards, the scoring forwards. So it's a big step up for them. No Joe Canning, but like, I'll be honest with Shane, I saw, like, last year when the young Nyland came on late in the game last year, Joe's influence, I don't know, is Joe's influence starting to wane a little bit, Shane? Like, and I mean, like, he's brilliant.
That's harsh. He went off injured. He went off injured in the All-Ireland semi-final, like. Well, he's playing well. He went off injured, like. So we haven't seen him since.
But was he? Cathal Mannion was a bigger loss than Joe Canning was.
I think they were both huge losses, I think.
But Mannion went off after 20 minutes, and he you know, he's a way, in my opinion, he's a way bigger influence on the Galway team I think some of the players.
I think
Anthony,
Joe's more of a he's the dead ball specialist for him. Now Nyland can do it as well. I think Mark, what you're saying is that he's not doing as much from open play for him.
No, sure.
As much as he was in regards to scoring. I think he's become more of a team player for Galway, in my opinion. What do I mean by that? I think he's actually throwing the ball around a bit more than taking on the scores himself now because he has better. Maybe he trusts lads more too. You know, at the end of the day, lads, all the same teams over schools that. There's lads around you and you're like, I'm not giving the ball to that lad, not a whoa. Whereas now Canning probably looks around and goes, I'll give it to Mannion, I'll give it to Niall Burke, I'll give it to Conor Whelan and they'll score it. And I think he's happy enough to do that now as well for the team.
And I'd say Mark, you're probably onto something there with Nyland. Like he's brilliant dead ball, and then did he score 2 from play as well? Like he will score from play as well. Like there'll probably be a mix and match from there, you know, and that Joe probably mightn't be asked to do 75 minutes anymore. Do you know?
Yeah,
he'll be used.
I suppose but what I would be saying, Dalo, is that I think if you're the manager of the opposing team now, you're not saying from the get-go, we have to have somebody to mark Joe Canning anymore.
No.
I think when you're going in against Limerick,
who is the guy you have to mark for Galway now? Like, is it Conor Whelan or?
Jesus, there's a few of them, Shane. To be honest with it, I genuinely think they were a bit unlucky in last year's All-Ireland semi-final against Limerick. I think the goalkeeper on the day didn't have a great game now, and he coughed up maybe 4 or 5 points on play. And I just his influence isn't as massive as it used to be. If I went back 5 or 6 years ago, you'd say Mark Joe Canning, you'll beat Galway. I don't think that applies right now. And I think maybe Cork to a certain degree, Mark Patrick Horgan, and you're 4/5 of the way of beating Cork. I don't think that's the situation either. And I mean, Patrick had a lot of scores from frees and 65s yesterday. He got 1 point from play. But I think I'd love to see Patrick getting maybe a goal and 3 or 4 points from play. The same way as TJ Reid is doing it for. Like, he does add more to it, like, you know.
There's 2 lads who made their debuts in 2008, I think, as well, Mark. It's nearly 14 years ago now. It's 14 season. They're bound to start winning a small bit, like, aren't they?
Yeah. Absolutely.
But they looked in serious shape, didn't they? Like the Conor Cooney, TJ, Niall Burke, Concannon, even young Jarlath Mannion. Jeez, the speed of him up front now. Maybe Westmeath not up to that level. We might see more of him now against them. Yeah. See what it's up, what they're at. But they did look. You think what they have to bring into it as well, like.
Yeah, he's a good player. He's been like very much to the front. Capitagle's challenged to win a county over the last number of years, and they've been close. Like, I think the couple of things we learned about Galway is, number one is that they have a load of players. I think we know that now. There's a huge, I'd say, array there for Shane to pick from any given day. Number two is the goalie problem sorted is one thing that I would say. I know Ian has a good joke. We played against him a couple of times against Sammy Larkins. He's very good. But he cost him a goal at a time in the match where it could hurt him in a different game, and he nearly cost him a second goal. So that's obviously on the agenda. And the last thing for me is heading against Limerick this weekend. I thought last year that they didn't attack in the usual Galway way. And I disagree with you, Mark, there that they nearly beat Limerick. Limerick left them in the game. I thought the second water break in the second half, Limerick went for a couple of goals. They should really have been 7 or 8. I just felt that they were 7, 8, 10 points ahead of them at that stage. I thought Galway sat back and they didn't go for it. And I think that's the big challenge for them. I think like they played Padraig Mannion kind of sweep, and they had a guy sitting back there. Like, so what are you expecting, Dalo, against Limerick? Are we something similar? Or are we going to see slightly more attacking? Given what we just spoke about now, what managers think.
Yeah, I think he'll bring back maybe a few more. You could see Joe, I'd say. No, he's supposed to be in great shape, he tells us anyway, Shane O'Neill. So, but I think he'll be looking down the line, TJ. I think he'd fancy that he'll beat the winners of Antrim and Dublin. He'll be in a Leinster final. So that kind of guarantees him if he wins Leinster. And for me at the moment, they'd look to be the favourites to win Leinster. They would. So he might be looking at the bigger picture now. I'd say this time last year, and obviously the COVID to everything, but like we were all feeling for Shane a bit, like going up from the back of the hall. It's a far different picture this year, I think. And I didn't feel that optimistic for him last year, but I do now. I really think I'm seeing things that they're really buying into the management and saying they have faith in them and they're playing for them. I think that's the way it looks for me. Yeah.
And they got a nice, easy run yesterday, Dalo. They came away from the game yesterday with very few, I'd say very little injuries and a nice pipe opener. Easy to go back to training on Tuesday night. Fellas will be in great form. Looking forward to the challenge now of taking on Limerick at the weekend.
Although sometimes, you know yourself in a league game, you get the odd old soft league game, and then you face into some crowd that are after getting a hard one, and you after 10 minutes you're saying, Jesus, this is a bit different than last week. But look, 1A obviously, but 1B lads, there was two straightforward games. Obviously, there was Wexford to beat Laois and Clare to beat Antrim, and then the battle was Kilkenny and Dublin, and Kilkenny, in fairness, came out on top again in Parnell Park. But the other two didn't quite go to script.
Yeah,
You've been very kind to me now, lads.
There's a great picture. There's a great picture. Hey,
a picture here.
See the picture of the back of the examiner there from you know. That's the score. I tell you, that's your man from Antrim yesterday.
That's two lads that jumped the wall in West Belfast. They weren't the first lads that jumped the wall in West Belfast. I heard you say on the radio yesterday, Shane, that you found it hard to get out of Belfast a couple of times.
I did. I
don't think they were matches now, were they?
No. I have relations up in Belfast, up a place called Portland, not too far from Belfast, and we went for a few nights out up there. I tell you, there's a few spots they're hard to get out of. So it's hard to get out of Belfast with a good result. And I tell you, that's Darren Gleeson would have been looking yesterday at how much people had Clare favourites to win that game, and you know him now, Dalo. You know he's from the same stock as kind of Sheedy, is in the same real passionate guy. He would have made the Antrim boys fully aware that look, we're up here now, we're here on merit. They were by far the best team in that McDonough final last year. They were streets ahead of Kerry. They should have bet them out the gate, to be honest, in my opinion. And Darren would have said they're coming up to our home place. It's not a very well known place, but anyone that's been there, geez, lads, more so than Parnell, it's a hard place. You would have seen on the telly there last night. I've been there a couple of times, and the ball is going. If it goes over the bar, it could end up inside in the kitchen in someone's in the estate behind the goals, and the Antrim boys would have known how to play that field, better than the Clare boys would. I'd say none of the Clare boys, Dalo, had played a match above Cork and Park in Belfast before.
Never, no.
So all these things are taken into factor. I don't think it's the end of the world for Clare. I think people who are saying it is don't really know what's going on. It was a fair journey up, playing in a place they never played, and playing against a crowd that their first game out in a league that a lot of people are saying they maybe shouldn't be in. And like all these things, lads, it's all human nature that you're going to be passionate, you're going to be up for it. And look, lads, look what it meant to Antrim yesterday. And if that's what they got out of it, like a bit of belief. And I was only even talking to Darren last night, and I said, fair play to you there now, and I can't wait to see you hopping off Cody next week. And he said, down to the Lions then, but we're delighted to be going there. And like the buzz in training this week there now for them will be unreal. But I think people saying this, that, the other about the Clare lads, I think it's ridiculous. I think there's a big backlash in the Clare lads coming this weekend.
Yeah, look, it's still a hard one to take. But the beauty of these hard ones to take, and sometimes the league was always 2 weeks. You'd have 2 weeks to torture, Mark, wouldn't you, after a bad one? But yeah. But now you're back on the horse. Oh yeah, you're back for next Sunday straight away, and if you win next Sunday, it's kind of forgotten about.
But Dalo, isn't it a great way for Antrim now to be going down to play Kilkenny off the back of a good victory at home? I know it was at home and stuff, but it was a great victory for morale, and they can go down now to Nolan Park and have a right cut off at Kilkenny. Now, who knows? They might come back with the tail between their legs, but it couldn't be better than to be going down to Nolan Park. Like if you were coming off a 10-point defeat at home to Clare, to be saying, Jesus, we have the hope now. But they're going down now with a lot of optimism, a lot of confidence. Yeah. And, Kilkenny, they were ruthless 7 or 8, 10 years ago. They're not as ruthless as they used to be. And remember that time when they'd go in the first 10 minutes and they'd have 4 shots of goals on you? They don't. I just hope that from an entrance perspective, they won't try that now. I don't think they have the players anymore that would do that as well. Because we came up against some brilliant players and saw brilliant players 8 or 10 years ago. But I think that Antrim they'll go with confidence, which is the most important, and they'll have a right cut off at Kilkenny next weekend.
Yeah.
Dalo, declare a couple of things. Like I've been involved in teams, obviously playing and managing up there, right, in the north, and it is an exceptionally difficult place to go, right? one of the things that we would have had on our head, right, is you need to get ahead of these guys. We need to kind of dictate the play. And I thought that Clare started very well. They had 9 points on the board in the opening 12 minutes.
9-3.
Yeah, 9-3. In a grand position, things were going well. I thought after that, right, that their use of the ball, especially to the two boys inside, I thought was very poor. It was aimless. Like, if you had Shanahan inside, you'd like to be peppering him all day. The goal they conceded before half-time, by any team standards, like if you conceded at a club level, you'd be given out, like, right? Poor defending, then poor shot stopping. That gave Antrim a huge fill-up, right? And the last thing I would say is, do you know about small things winning games, right? The score that Neil McManus got, right? I'm not sure what the Clare fellow was watching it. He comes down the line on 67 minutes into a gale, right? So he goes for the match is a draw. The keeper catches it under the bar, uses the ball well, and then downtowner from Neil McManus. Again, smart use of the ball.
He was down the bottom of the Falls Road.
He was downtown. So whilst it's definitely not the end of the road, right, and Clare will get a response, right, I still think, like, it's a bit like a lot of things in life, Dalo. You know, when you're down and you need, like, you normally get the kick when you're down, and then when you're kind of cock of the hoop, things always go your way. So Clare, they're in a bit of a hole on the field, off the field. They need something. I don't know. Did you think the John Conlon experiment worked? I was surprised with that.
I've seen him.
Too.
Yeah.
I was down in Clonlara for a year, Dalo, like, with them, and I would never maybe heard of them or speaking about him playing him centre back.
He did play one championship. He did play one championship with him, Shane, before you was with him now. Sean Stack was manager. Yeah, because they beat those in kind of a preliminary quarterfinal. Yeah, he gave an exhibition against those, but maybe then in the quarterfinal itself he wasn't as dominant.
Are they looking at him like as a kind of a quarterback figure almost, in that they're going to allow him? They're not going to want him to push out the field and mark somebody. Or they want him to sit in the pocket, and because he's such a good striker of the ball, get a better quality ball inside to the boys. Like, is that the reason they're looking at him at 6? Or McInerney, I think McInerney is really good. Would be really good at 6, like David McInerney.
Yeah, he's been struggling to find a spot that he's comfortable in. David McInerney, I would say that, Shane. Yeah. Like, fullback was a long time, and then it just wasn't going to be fullback. Then it was midfield, and maybe centre back. Maybe centre back is the spot. John Conlon, I think, could play there. I thought he actually hurled okay. If you watch it all, I thought the boys were a bit critical of him last night. I thought he hurled okay, to be honest. I thought he was nearly our best defender. Dermot Ryan played fairly well, went up and got 2 points. But in defensive wise, I thought John Conlon was probably the best of the 6. I thought we were cleaned out inside, like. And Ever wasn't good in goal. Ever Quilligan, he wasn't good in goal either. 1 puck outs. He gave away 1-1 basically, like an all-star nominee keeper. He know himself today. He doesn't need me to be doubling down on that. But look, I didn't think it was a massive shock. I thought it was an awful tricky assignment. Few people here, you know the way lads would be doing bets. Clare -10, and they were saying Offaly plus this and that. I said, "Jeez, Clare -10 above in Corrigan Park." I said, and this crowd are like, I'd be great friends with the O'Kanes, you know, Gary and Gregory, and Gary's a selector with Darren. And so they'll text any pod this week, Dalo. And I said, no, we said we'd leave it till Monday, Gar, to see what the results are like. And I said, don't be too hard on Lohan. No, he's getting it hard enough. He says, we've the DUP waiting for him at the bottom of the road, and then the rest of us waiting for him at the top of the road, he said. So they were relishing this, lads, and I could smell it. Like, and then I was going up the road to get to the RT, so I'd Clare FM on the way up. And God, it was frustrating because I don't know why they sent Sil O'Connor and Tommy Gilfile up and they hadn't them on full live commentary. It was only bits and pieces. It was frustrating now. But they came on and like, next thing, we knew Clare were playing with a good wind, 9-3, grand, like 8 or 9 points now, and a bit of experience in the second half, see it through. But once the goal went in, I just felt, I texted a couple of lads, I said, we're in huge trouble here, like, because you can imagine those Antrim lads, like, they've hardly lost a match now in a while. They're like maybe the next level down to Limerick, but they're winning. And now they're up Division 1 hurling into the Liam McCarthy, playing Dublin in the quarter. I mean, whatever about Brian Lohan, I might be more worried if I was Matty Kenny last night. Do you know, he's to face into him in a few weeks' time, the championship. I tell you, it'll be fair detail now, that match. I tell you, I wouldn't rule it out because I know myself how Antrim wouldn't fear Dublin, like, so.
Yeah,
I think we'll know a lot more next weekend, I suppose, won't we? We'll know a lot more about Clare anyway, because, you know, I just think the players have to really stand up and perform next Sunday.
Let's talk about that for a second, Dalo. That's going to be something different, isn't it? Lohan under the cash, and like the whole history of what's happening in Clare with the Fitzgeralds, Davy coming to town. Lohan needs a response. So Davy would just love to stand on his throat, I'm assuming, Saturday night. Like, this is huge.
And
He won't get through that anyway, physically.
TJ, what about Davy complaining about the fella in the stand last year in the championship that kept abusing him for the whole game?
Yes. And I would say as well.
Who's that?
And as well as that.
I don't know what he's going on, but will he be there again next weekend? John 316, the fellow at the barrier.
He'd be around to play some press anyway, I'd imagine.
And for the fantasy listeners, I wouldn't be relying on team sheets for a Clare and Wexford game this weekend. As to one, will they appear? And number two, what will appear on them, Dalo?
I know. Look, it's very funny, lads. We had a great man on with us there the last show, Fergal Hagen. We good test of Fergal Hagen now next Sunday because he's down to officiate. So, next Monday we can have a good chat how the referee performed. But it is the game of the weekend. I know we have Tipp and Cork, pressure. Age old, and probably the two favourites in for the All Ireland in Galway and Limerick. But I think the game of the weekend has to be Clare and Wexford with the whole. And look, everyone's on about Clare in huge trouble. Clare beat Wexford League and Championship last year, so. Have Wexford come to this with more of a point to prove? So there's a whole pile of things, lads. I think, like, if I'm a Clare player this week, if I'm a senior player, if I've played in that team for 5 or 6 years, Jesus, I have to be talking. I'd be nearly saying to Brian Law and Brian, can I have a chat with the players tonight, Monday night, even though we're not meeting? We might only be doing recovery tonight on our own. Can we get somewhere where I know we're not allowed to go into a dressing room, but get us a stand somewhere below in Clarecastle or below in Bearfield or Shannon, and we just talk on our own and say we need to stand up here. Because that management are doing a good job there. There's no stone being left unturned there as best they can, under restrictions, I would say. But they're doing as good a job as they can for that team. And I would say, forget about sideshows now. Forget about other stuff. Forget about me writing columns or Gerlock Nairn writing columns. Forget about that. And go out and pull that jersey out of your head next Sunday and make a stand. You know, I think that has to be done.
Dalo, myself and Lazarus will come down and do the stats for you. We'll help you. We can be above on the old board's nest. We'll give you a hand. We'll do all the ticking for you. Can we come down?
I'd say there'll be a lot of volunteers to get into this one.
To be bad form now, Dale, if you can't get the two of us in next weekend.
Do you know the right job?
We're not that big either, like, you know.
No, we don't want sandwiches renting, Mark. So we just want to see the match. So.
No, we bring our own.
TJ, you're not a tickets and tay man, like.
No.
I just know the right job with this one is bring it out to Tulla. You ever play Tulla? Yeah. We get out to Tulla. I'll tell you a good one back there. One year in the league there, I don't know, we were playing Cork and that was shit hot. I was only coming on, first year or two now, I was probably 91 or 2, and playing Cork in the league, and Cork were flying it, and we were middling, like, Ginner was only finding his feet, like. So next thing, all of a sudden, we heard the match was switched from Cusick Park out to Tulla. Yeah, and of course, I was trucking away with the old bank at the time, and so Mull was the main man in the bank anyway, and I was playing wing back. I was playing wing back the same day. I was normally corner back then, like if I was on. And the next thing, Muller comes out. He was wearing 13 or whatever. He comes out doing him. I was nearly in awe of him, like. But we knew each other, you know, just from the Christmas parties, which were fairly famous in the bank at the time, like.
Absolutely.
Unreal. But anyway, Mull says, "Where did you get this place by?" Where did you get this place by? And I says, "Mull, did you not ever hear the famous Tulla?" "I did. That 70s team couldn't be beaten here. I can see why." He said, "He's looking around." You know, so another time we brought Dublin out there. Now that was genuinely because Innes was flooded. But the late great Lar Foley, like, who famously played in both Railway Cup finals, was the Dublin hurling manager. Well, he nearly went to blows with Lynn Gaynor, and they often macked each other, Dublin and Tipp, back in the 60s. He nearly went to blows with Gaynor about bringing him out to Tulla, this hellhole. He says, "Jesus." I said, I was saying to the boys, "Jeez, lads," and we're Clarecastle, like, and Aero Guinness and Dora Bearfield. We'd be the Innes urban area, let's say, Kilmaley being nearly west of us, right? But if we meet the likes of Fecal, Scariff, Whitegate, sometimes 6 Mile Bridge or Callahan's Mills, be nearly a conspiracy theory that they're bringing us out to Tulla. Do you know? So I just after the match, we wondered, and I'd be inclined to agree with Dar Foley. I'd be saying, and these Clare boys would be all saying, "What are you saying?" Like, you know, Dar Foley had a good point there about this place, lads. You know, like, but look, it's gas like that. That will be the venue of choice, I think, for next Sunday, out to Tulla. But anyway, it's one to be looking forward to anyway, and I'd be enjoying. Are you doing radio for that one, Shane? Volunteer for that?
No, I'm on the. Well, the last time I was there, it was a rip roaring contest, Dublin and Laois. So doing a bit of radio for that. I'm sure there's loads of footballs being kicked and everything next weekend, next Saturday, Dalo. So we might.
I forgot about that coming in.
They mightn't come to us too much.
I forgot about that coming in. Jesus,
Dalo, before you go away from the Clare, do you think that the stuff that's happening behind the scenes in Clare at the moment, with Pat Fitzgerald and the county board, is having a potential problem with the team?
Unless I was in there, Mark, I couldn't really tell you that. But I doubt it. But sure, look, everyone in Clare is saying it is now this morning. But sure, if you're up by 15 points, the boys will be saying, them lads don't bother with that. 20 Kelly and them, they don't get involved in any of that stuff. Look, Dowling said it last night. It's hard to separate yourself from the noise. You know, with the world we live in now, going to work, going to whatever, sure, people are made to say it to you and see what your reaction is. And then they're made to be texting their friend. I met your man today, met TJ Ryan. He said things are very bad in the camp. And, do you know, and you mightn't have said that at all, TJ, you know, and like that's I don't. Look, Lohan, for me, has stayed away from talking about it and has kind of said, well, we have to concentrate on what we're at. So look, it would look like that's not going great at the moment, but you're Sunday evening it could be going grand. So I don't know. Look, but you're right, TJ. We need our backs. The problem is, I think, for us, that we haven't been producing. Like, we haven't won a 20 or 21 match in 6 years, not a match, and we've lost, I think, on average by 12 points of those games. So for me, we haven't been we've been producing a few good forwards. Like, you know, Shanahan would have come out of those teams. Ryan Taylor probably came out of those teams. You're looking at a few more. Like, there's a couple coming now. The big ray light for me was that Flannan's Harty team of last year, Shane. You know, they beat Kieran's and they didn't get to finish off the All-Ireland colleges, whether they would have won it or not, but they won the Harty back. And they were all Clare lads, and they look good now. Keane Galvin would have played out of doors yesterday, and so it's a tough enough old baptism for a lad like that, 19, above in Corrigan Park. Yeah, you know,
I think everyone forgets how young he is, though, Dalo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and he was brilliant for year 20s last year against Tipp in what was a poor performance by the team, but he was really good. And I think a lot of people don't realise how young he is. You know, I think he's going to be some talent for you. Because he was brilliant against those in the minor a couple of years ago down in. He kind of played that sweeper role for you, I think, if I'm right. Yeah. And he's so comfortable on the ball, and he's a great hurler. Like,
no, look, he's a club mate of mine. Like, so, you know, we really hope he's coming through. But look, we'll talk about it on night, lads. But like, I think the talking has to be done next Sunday. Like, you know, that's the way I have to anyway.
Just mentioned the under 20, Anthony. It's good to hear that there's I think a date has been penciled in now for the under 20 All-Ireland final in the minor as well. Like, you know, so that's a massive game for Cork now. We're in the final for the third time in a row, and if Cork could get over the line to win one of those All-Irelands now, having been beaten in the previous two, it would be great for the county at this stage of the year. Like,
because I think
Limerick have a good minor team, TJ.
Good minor team, yeah.
Yeah, as I said,
no, they are. I really, really impressed with them. They would have bet. I would have been involved with Tipp there last year. They was after extra time to some game now. It was a credit to all the young lads, 16, 17-year-olds like Miguel Crowns at table. Adam English for me. I know Cathal O'Neill is making the breakthrough. I think Adam English is the real deal. I think he's outstanding. I think I know the Leinster champions in the minor go straight through to All Ireland final, and Galway have a handy team. So I think they 4 or 5 of the forwards from last year even when they won it. Yeah, but it'll be a good test. I think it'll be a nice team, TJ.
The manager was involved in St Thomas's. Kevin Lally, Dalo was involved with the Galway.
Okay, Kevin. And the Kevin can't lose, like. Kevin can't lose. Can't lose.
So the vibes are strong. I know that the Galway have played them in a couple of times, so they think they have a nice team. But look, Shane, I'm sure you probably know better than anybody else. Minor can be strange. Like you can, on a day, players can play very well. You're looking for that bit of consistency. But yeah, Limerick probably would have been a little bit surprising at the start of the year. I mean, Dermot Mullins has done a great job. He's got on to the under-20s now, so yeah.
Great. It's a hard act for him, isn't it? You're trying to get the 20s together and trying to finish out with the minor by as well. Like,
it's a hard act. It's a hard act for him, but that's just the way it was set up, and it's just, I suppose, the COVID kind of started that. The other thing Dale touched on was Dignan, in fairness, seems to have awfully moving, doesn't he? He's had 3 big wins. Like, he did a big fundraiser. He's got, just what you spoke about there about the underage, he's got Lowry involved there, which is massive commercially, because when you can add a name like that to the setup, it brings in other people, and that the underage setup, and then they just combined a big win this weekend. So the ship is definitely moving, which he'll be very happy with, I'm sure.
Yeah, and even that fundraiser they had on the canal, you know, where that got so much publicity, and
it did.
Oh yeah, look at TJ. You get someone in there like that that's positive, you know, no baggage, would have dealt with county boards all his life as a player and a coach, and just maybe sees the downside and say, what are the lessons I took myself? What were the things I'd like to have changed? And you can't change everything, like, because there's constraints. But I mean, bringing in Shane Lowry alone, like. And you look at the management of their teams, like you look at their management, Mick Finlay and John Mahan. Football manager, you know, it's fairness.
It's massive. In fairness, Landers is calling that with a while now, Dalo. He wants you to head the ship in Clare, so he's called that one a long way out.
Yeah, well, I was county manager. I don't honestly think I could ever be club chairman, never mind county board chairman. I struggle to go at that club AGM even. It's just. I don't know. I'd rather train the under-16s or something.
No, your county needs leadership, Dalo. Your county needs these leaders. You know?
There's good lads there, like James and a couple of more. Shani Mack, they're good lads. They'll be very good. Liam Doyle, no, good sort out all them, I tell you. No, look, sure, hopefully. Go on.
Speaking of fundraisers, Dalo. Okay. Yeah, there's a big fundraiser on the 24th of July in Cork this year. The Trigger O'Keefe had contacted me over the weekend just to give it a mention. You'll all have remembered Kieran O'Connor, that played cornerback for Cork, number 4. Unfortunately, Kieran didn't make it against his battle with cancer, but put up a massive struggle over 3 or 4 years, and died very young. And his wife and 3 kids. You know, they were married in Ballinrosig, and their 3 kids were christened in Ballinrosig. But they're having a 160-kilometre cycle on the 24th of July in aid of Kieran and in aid of Marymount. So it's the Malin to Ballin is what it's called, but it's Ballinrosig for anybody who's wondering. So that's a worthy cause. The boys are cycling, and none of them have cycled since they were kids. So Trigger has told me that there's a lot of Epsom salts have been sold out locally in the last couple of weeks. There's a lot of fellas going around with red asses and big asses, I suppose. Like, but
do they know? Well done to everyone in that. I hope they know, Mark, that Soda Cream are pulling out of Ireland. That cycling is no. Well done to everybody there, lads. First week of the Fantasy Hurling League. It's only the league, as TJ put up on the podcast WhatsApp. Shane, we'll have to add you to that. Your man is after coming in from Ballynahinch, and he's top of the table after week 1, lads. And we've a graphic coming up here. Yeah.
I'm doing the old, I'm doing the Joey from Friends, kind of smelling the fart look there in my picture.
Larry, you could have gotten a picture with Mark hoisting up the Liam McCarthy. We missed you a lot, like. Just low enough, like just ahead of him there. He looks last there before the first round of a championship or something. And he in dread of his shit in case Colin Lynch would get at him.
Let him on, bring him on.
In fairness, you weren't for going back anywhere. But Mark, I have to say, you're going back again in the old Fantasy League.
There's only one thing very familiar with that, is that Brian Hogan and myself are bringing up the tail of the team.
But you'd have to say this time round now. It looks to me now. Look, it's early, like, but it looks a 3-horse race at the top, like it's Tipp, Clare.
Yeah, but I had a few non-runners. I had a few non-runners over the weekend. Now, Shamie Kellin never tagged out, and Chin was a sub. So, but it's obvious that the fellas at the top of the table have plenty of time in their hands. Like, one fella's a teacher, the other fella public, and you don't open the doors till 6 o'clock. Like. Yeah, you've plenty of time to be on the internet checking out all the results. Like
I said it to Shefflin on Saturday. Sorry, few mate, I'm below digging a foundation all morning for the outside drinking in Murty Browns. You were never in a foundation in your life, so Shefflin.
Hi, Mackie. If you're doing a handicap job on yourself here, like the horse race, you're doing some job.
Mentioning the horse.
Hi,
the little
don't
baby.
go away now. Don't go away now for a minute from the fantasy league.
Well, you see,
Mark, have you any strategy to get yourself out of the mire? Like you're on to me there about Clare now, and things are going wrong on the field and off the field. Have you any strategy to get yourself out of this shite?
Dalo, first of all, Marky, don't tell him. Dalo, you gave him zero help last week. I spoke to Mark.
Correct.
I spoke to Mark before we came on air. Before I spoke to you.
This is unfair.
I'm going to help him this week because you led him astray.
Definitely. Yeah.
I got a text about 11:30. But bear in mind now, 1:00 is your final time for your team on the Saturday. About 11:30, and I blow up to my ears in muck and shit, bailing out water after all the rain below on the building side at the back of the pub. Dalo, who'll be hitting the freeze for Galway? I just looked at it. I looked at it with contempt, to be honest. Like, if he hasn't been in at this stage, like, what's he at? Would he be looking up bloodlines about some mayor in France, like she was in Fort? She's a half sister now, out of Goshen's grandfather, out of an ant of desert or whatever. Do you know, like? But if you had one look at your fantasy, well, who'll be hitting the freeze there for Galway? So I said, oh, jeez, Niall Burke, I suppose, if Joe hadn't there, and the team anyway, and then up to watch the match in the first half and a first free for Galway. No Evan Nyland to be hitting the freeze, like. Jesus, Nyland is hitting the freeze side. He says, sure, that's the fella that came on for Joe last year and nailed 3 savage ones against Limerick. That's right, says I. Only when you saw the scoring.
Yeah, with Mark.
Yeah,
a small bit of the story nicely left out there, right? He told you possibly Niall Burke, right? So not only did he know Evan Nyland was taking the freeze, right? He made him captain, which got him 57 points, right?
He was granted that point, right, until then the evidence came out where he had put Evan Nyland into his own team and made him captain. So, Dalo, I tell you now, you're the last fellow I'll be asking in future. You mark my card now.
The gloves are off, I take it after this. Well, Larry's up there again, lad. Larry's getting good at this. Shane, have you any bit of advice for Mark on where he could try and your top straight away?
I would say try and pick lads that are actually going to go to the match anyway. First of all, Jamie Cannon won't leave any limits over there.
Jamie Cannon was a Jamie Cannon, like.
Jamie Cannon was
I should have known he wouldn't come up
watching the match.
Cannon was
and Lander sweating on him.
I'd say Lee Chin must have been inside in the gym for the first half of the match because of the size of when I saw him coming on at half time.
Jesus,
he was huge.
And
Martin Gatlin went to be looking for him.
With 5 league games in 6 weeks, right? I'll be surprised if you don't see a couple of high-profile restings this weekend.
Oh yeah.
So be careful.
More advice. You want to look at your own score now and not be giving advice to anyone.
I'd 4 fellas who didn't play either, Mark.
You'd want to call a family meeting tonight there, TJ, to go through who's going to be dropped.
No, good and all as I think the 2 experts at the top of the screen are there. You're not leading it. Am I right in saying that? There's a couple of listeners.
No, that's a different league. This is the Super League. Shane is leading that. It's just us, and Larry, and then myself. It's a 3-horse race, basically. We're gone away. From the peloton. You're in the peloton, Mark. Actually, but there's our listeners league, and Sean Brogan and
number 1, right?
yeah, and Colm Keaveney. Lads, there's some scores 265 and 264. I take it there was Antrim lads in there.
Well, there's a fella from Aina Killamona there. Yeah. Alan Mullins? You're on Clare, man.
He mustn't have picked Tony Kelly at all, like.
No, definitely not.
No.
Castlemartyr, Carrigaline, Kilbritton, Shanbellymore. There's 4 Cork in the top 10.
I know you mentioned which of them is the nearest to Mark?
Brian Smithy there from Castlemartyr, Jimmy's brother.
Yeah, he played with him or Killy, which one of the Smithies won a championship, which did he?
Correct, Jimmy Jack. Married to my first cousin, Diane.
In the overall league, is there anyone below Danders, no? In the overall league?
I think Colin Higgins from Clarecastle is next, look. As the sponsors of the prizes for the league, Butler's Hurleys again, bang on, slap up straight away. So the gifts last year were quality, so top class Hurleys down in Kilkenny there. So very, very grateful.
Is that the one with the maroon? Is the one with the maroon on it?
And as you see in front of us, our go-to t-shirt when the weather warms up. Too old, too slow, 2 4s. The one and only Donny Ryan. They will be stocked. And when Murty Brown's reopens, I'll be stocking all sizes, shapes, and everything in the too old, too slow, too 4.
And if you stay for the weekend, you get a free T-shirt, Dalo, is it?
Well, don't even drive. You'll be okay.
Don't drive, okay.
Put the pennies $5 down for a box, Dalo.
A box of yeah. Well, if you don't buy them, you'll take them. Like.
No bother.
Great stuff, lads. Brilliant stuff. We got on a bit there, Larry. Sorry, won't have any editing to do anyway. We're very gentle this week, lads. I can't go.
Yeah.
Mark the Queen. The Queen is out, is she?
She's out by. Well, what do you mean by out now? Out not running or out? She's out running.
She's off. That's what I mean. She's running on Wednesday, is she?
Well, no.
And she's off for her life again. Like. That's all we want to know.
Since the last time I met you, now, right? Dundalk sent me down this, and I know you said I never got an All-Star, but here's the closest thing I ever got to an All-Star, right? I think you got there.
Landers.
So the voice of Dundalk sent me that after she winning the Champions Weekend there 2 weekends ago.
Landers, knowing you give a shite about the trophy. You just what you'd on and the prize money is all you're concerned about.
Sorry, I missed all that there.
What you'd on and the prize money is all you were concerned about, not the trophy.
Which was a lovely little surprise to get now, I must say. Fair play to Dundalk Racecourse. But
another
she's
one
out
Wednesday?
this Wednesday. Yeah, she's out there Wednesday, and we went to see her work there on Jimmy Mangan's on Sunday morning. She didn't work great now, so we had to get the vet to scope her this morning, and she scoped clean. So we're going to have a go anyway. But if you asked me yesterday morning, I said she wouldn't have run, but she's going to have a cut now. She's going to take her place, and we're hopeful. And Joy Sheridan back in the plate. She got £3. TJ, the resident handicapper on the podcast. What do you think for a half-a-length victory the last day?
Yeah, she was probably a bit of value for it, Mackie. I think she could have won by a little bit more. And Joy Sheridan claims 5 as well, right? So off to 57 with Joy claiming 5. If the handbrake is off, right, I'd say she'll be very close.
Yeah, well, it's whether she's fully tuned up or not now. Like, you know, she didn't work great now on Sunday, so I'm a bit concerned myself. So I had a chat with the trainer this morning, and I said, look, I was listening to the Shock handling there about Sky Ace a couple of weeks ago.
He said she was a certainty.
He said, remember he said he gave her a good blow the day before the race in Fairy House. So yes. I said, Ken, do you know what? Give her a blow tomorrow and see how she reacts. And if she comes through that, we might have a cut now on Wednesday evening around 7:00.
And then we were talking about horses anyway, lads.
Oh, Shane, you want to know your stuff here on this thing? I used to fancy myself when they started listening to the two of them.
No, I'll have to brush up on the horse stuff also.
Yeah. The Queen. She's a darling of the podcast, like, do you know what I mean?
Good stuff.
A lot of the listeners back are blind and they've lost their shirt, but they got a few pounds back the last day.
Good job.
Well, no, 7's to 4's the first day, and 9's to 6 is the last. That wasn't too bad, like them. And I didn't see any of it coming my way, Dalo. I don't know, just to let you know, like.
You go here, will you? You're lucky I didn't drive down
to Kill the first day. There'll be a free night in Murty Browns for the podcast.
You're lucky I didn't drive down to Kill after the first one.
I know. Jesus,
only for the county lock-in was in, you were in big trouble. But come here, I wouldn't worry too much about her not going well in the gallop there, because Jodine often told me you were useless on the Tuesday night for a county final, and you turned up on the Sunday, kid. So don't worry about that. Don't worry about that.
It's all about the day. It's all about the day.
Just before we go, lads, I have to give a mention. Got a text yesterday morning. There's a lot of people in Clare, but more especially in my club, Clarecastle, one of the greatest ever magpies, John Hanley, our mentor, our teacher, our coach, or he was just everything to Clarecastle GA. Passed away yesterday morning. He was actually inside in Carcalla nursing home. My mother's there as well, so I used to meet him there occasionally. So he's just he'll be a huge loss to us all, because he was just so fundamental to Clarecastle hurling right through since he played with my father in the 49 final, and coach or local principal all his life, passed away. So condolences to that, the Hanley family. But what a life well lived, and what a man. And we've all come across these type of people, as haven't we? The king of the village, really, like, you know. So we'll bury him during the week, and he'll be buried decent. Obviously, we to consider the restrictions and all that. So just to, I suppose, finish on a poignant note, that's great to be back, hurling, lads. Great to have you, Shane. Great to have you. We'll be knocking you off the top of that league. We'll be knocking you off the top of that league very soon. I'll be doing a bit of studying myself later on. So great stuff, lads, as always. And we'll talk to you all next week. Cheers.
Sound, lads. Thanks, lads. All the best.
Lads.
Cheers, Shane.
Thanks, bye.
Thanks, Shane.
Supporting all 32 counties through the Allianz Leagues.
A grain of rice, a grain of rice is going to tip the scale. Just remember that, lads.
There's a small bit of a needle there.
Come on, Mayo, you've got to get Andy Moran into the game.
Our mission was to show that we're no longer the whipping boys of Munster.